It is the Y'all Show, talk with a Southern accent. And I'm John Rawl, and we're going to talk barbecue, we're going to talk Texas, and we're going to have a fantastic conversation with a guy that knows a lot about barbecue and a lot about the Vaquero lifestyle, the Texas Cowboys, if you will. And that's our friend from Davila's Barbecue in Seguin, Texas, Adrian Davila is on with us now to talk about this rich tradition in this community not far from San Antonio. There's a shot of the outside of the building, and here on the Y'all Show, we are glad to have you back here on this program that loves to dive into all things barbecue in the South. I'm John Rawl, and let's go to the outskirts of San Antonio, about 20-30 minutes east of there on Interstate 10 headed toward Houston. You'll find Davila's Barbecue, and Adrian of that great establishment, a third generation pitmaster, is on with us right now. Hello, welcome to the Y'all Show.
Hey guys, thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Yes.
The Y'all Show.
Yes.
All the way from the little town of Seguin, right outside of San Antonio, about an hour south of Austin, Texas.
You're in a barbecue junction right there on Interstate 10, and we're going to have a great time talking to you and your family's tradition. And y'all do things a little bit different there at Davila's in Seguin, Texas, and we're going to find out a lot more as we go through a few minutes of conversation with Adrian. So first of all, let's talk about the guy right there on your shirt, your grandfather, Raul, who got this thing going back in 1959.
I'm looking at the cameras going one way, my finger's going the other way.
Yeah.
Yes, my grandfather is on the logo. I like to say that we sort of Colonel Sanders him, so to speak, because not yet elderly man, a grandfatherly figure, watching over his barbecue, creating these things, and being so experienced at that point in his life. Zoom wanted to capture him in that moment and really live the essence of that, of just us creating what he started, and he gets to look over as the barbecue every single day.
Yeah. Well, again, we'll show the logo a little bit closer there. It's a good logo. I like it. And I guess you've got that on products people can walk in there and walk out with.
Yeah, we, of course, our T-shirts and hats, and we have a barbecue rub that's thankfully on HEB shelves all over the state of Texas. We have our barbecue sauce bottled with spicy or our original. Definitely have the products. We have a cookbook also that you can walk in the store and pick it up, or you can order all of those things online. Even our barbecue itself on Gold Belly.
We're going to go through the menu a little bit later, but right now, again, this is a third generation pitmaster we're talking to in Adrian today. His grandfather, Raul, his father, Ed, and now he himself keeping that tradition going in Seguin, Texas with Davila's Barbecue. And one of the cool things, and I'm going to go back to this photo here, if you don't mind, of the outside of the building. Is this the original building from 1959?
This building we moved into in 1973.
Okay.
The building was built in the 50s or about 1960. So that the building itself is at least 80 years old. But we were catty corner in an old refurbished schoolhouse with a pit outside and a few tables inside, and life was pretty simple. And, my grandparents and my father and his siblings lived in the back room of the restaurant.
I see.
Yeah, so humble beginnings are definitely
Well, that's sometimes the secret ingredient there, Adrian. And we're going to show off the barbecue and more, but before we get into more of the food aspect, your company there has a blend of not only the great Texas barbecue, but your own family ancestry, as I think y'all are part of the Vaquero tradition, which comes from Spain into Mexico and then into Texas. And essentially, if you don't know what that word means, if you're not a Texan, it's a Texas, or it's a Mexican Spanish cowboy. Y'all are a bunch of cowboys.
Well, it would be, Texas or Tejas, which originally means the friendly people from the Native Americans. Our style would, if were to wrap it all, it would be Tejano style, which is definitely a meld of Mexican, European, and even sometimes African influences. But the things that we barbecued, if you want to go down to bring it up to modern times, is like eating all of the animal. You know, my grandfather, you know, we were selling brisket, ribs, sausage, traditional, per se, American barbecue at the front of the house, but grandfather was always barbecuing the whole head, the lengua, which was the fries, you know, those sort of things. Which, if you really think about it, just utilizing the whole animal. That's what the Vaqueros were about, of course, utilizing everything around them, all the resources to cook with, which is whatever they found and foraged. And a lot of times it wasn't necessarily beef, that was their merchandise. So, you know, but really, yeah, but I remember most about my father-in-law and truly trying to make utilize the things around us, which definitely fits in that Vaquero tradition.
I see.
Make use of that.
All right, we're talking with Adrian Davila here. He is the third generation pitmaster at Davila's Barbecue, and that is in Seguin, Texas. And if you have a chance to stop by, just off of Interstate 10 is where you'll find his location outside of San Antonio, Texas. We're going to go through this tremendous menu in a moment here as we go through our great visit of barbecue here on the Y'all Show, a show that loves to put barbecue as much as we possibly can front and center. And when you go into Adrian's place there, you'll find all kinds of goodies like that right there, what we're seeing on the screen there. And I want you, for just a few minutes, one of the more famous things that Davila's Barbecue is known for is your sausage, which it looks like y'all go through your big supply of sausage every 2 days. How did this tradition start? And tell me a little bit more about sausage, because Adrian, I've never seen, or I have never sausage a thing.
You know, it's so funny to even to hear that, and to think of where we, you know, where I knew what, you know, what barbecue places were meant by younger was sausage. It was like literally Lockhart, Gonzalez, Elgin, you know, all of those places. It was all about the sausage, you know. Before, you know, recent times, Aaron Franklin making the brisket, you know, this whole thing, you know, brisket superstar. That's what all things are measured by. Barbecue place. And he makes his way now up north. I just returned from New York City, and of course, brisket is popular there. But you know, all things were measured by sausage when your recipe and where it came from, and you know, those had German, Spanish, and Czech influence, all meeting here in Texas. Again, we go back to Europe. Well, my grandfather and his brother Adolf worked in the Luling Locker plant, meat plant, where they processed sausage and different meat. And that's where he learned his hand. And so you take, you know, all those recipes, knowledge, flowing organically back in the day. This is our version of it, and it's an all beef product. You can go belly again. And we've been making it for like 65 years in the same way, with a natural casing, no tree, smoking in the house for 5 hours, you know. So it's our namesake. It's our, you know, it's our signature. It's our signature item. Again, you know, before things were measured always by brisket, I would say less than about 10% of your, you know, day-to-day barbecue.
All right, we're talking again with Adrian. Adrian, if you could do me a small favor, there's a chance that we're getting a little feedback on your end. So if you have the opportunity real quick to turn your volume down, if that is an option for you, I'm going to give you that opportunity to turn your volume down while I tell people about your website. It is davilasbbq.com on the internet, and that's spelled D-A-V-I-L-A, and you have an S in there. Yes, davilasbbq.com is how this is found on the World Wide Web. And if you happen to be passing through Seguin, Texas, they're located at 418 West Kingsbury Street. And I haven't cruised through Seguin in the last couple of decades. So where would we find you? What's a land? I guess you probably are the landmark, but what would people know? Where would people find you, Adrian?
Right off IH10, it's pretty easy to get off of 102 exit 610 or exit 606, but we're right next to a big water tower. It says Seguin right on it. At the deep south, those are our landmarks. We used to have like the football teams on the water tower and all those things. There's a big water tower. The Seguin, Texas. I'm looking right at it. Or in small towns, Texas, which you won't really find very much. There's actually a park called DDT for families, and they have a roller coaster. There's literally a little roller coaster right next to us. So, big city Seguin, they got a roller coaster and a water tower. We'll be right next to that.
And don't forget about Davila's right there too in Seguin, Texas. So cancel the plans to Disney World, y'all. It's Seguin. It's where we're headed to. And you know what? We're going to learn more about what you got on the menu. Let's take a quick break, Adrian, and come right back. By the way, I think we're good to go, much better with our audio with that little adjustment there. So got some smart people there in Seguin that can fix technical problems when they pop up. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come right back, and we're going to walk through this tremendous menu that Adrian and the staff there at Davila's Barbecue has lined up. And you're not going to, well, let me just put it this way. You make it very difficult for people like me that already have a hard enough time picking what I want when I go to a restaurant, because you got a little bit of think of everything from catfish to barbecue to sausage and so much more. I saw some sweet stuff on the menu too. And we're going to talk about all that with, we're going to talk about it all with Adrian, and we're going to do that right after this. So stay tuned. More of the Y'all Show is coming right up.
Hey Tennessee, I'm Kix Brooks. I've been blessed to tour this nation from sea to shining sea. And every time that bus rolls back across the state line, I'm reminded how good we have it here in our home state. Whether you like to hunt, fish, or watch wildlife, we got our Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency to thank for it. But before you follow that red dirt road to your favorite fishing hole or hunting spot, there's one thing you need: a license. Just visit GoOutdoorsTennessee.com and you can get your license in minutes.
And we are back on Talk with a Southern Accent. I am John Rawl, and we're having a fantastic conversation right now on this program as we're talking barbecue, but we're talking about one of the real gems located in the Lone Star State. It's Davila's Barbecue. It's located in Seguin, Texas. That's not all that far from San Antonio. And the pitmaster, the third generation pitmaster of that establishment, is visiting with us today. And that is Adrian Davila, and he's telling us a little bit more about the background in the previous portion of our interview. But now it's time to dive headfirst, y'all, right into what you can find on the menu. And there is a little preview of some of the items and Adrian's pretty picture there. Adrian, looks like you have a, I don't know if barbecue's that heavy, but you look like a guy I wouldn't want to run up against in a fight.
No, I'm much more, into pleasing you with my food than any altercation. But, I try to stay in shape, but for sure.
Well, it looks like you're doing a good job, and it looks like you're staying in shape helps you put out beautiful dishes, which that's another thing. What are we looking at there? Because that's another trademark of Davila's.
It really has become, one of those things that draw people from, all parts of America per se. We've talked to people from Oregon, or it was on Man Fire Food on the cooking channels, our lamb barbacoa, which barbacoa in Texas, or started, it's nothing new to us. It's what we've, eaten. It's a staple here in South Texas, but it's typically beef head, right? Cabeza de vaca. In Mexico, it's way more prominently lamb. Lamb is much more, it's more cost effective and more practical. So if you order barbacoa in Mexico, it's going to be lamb. And that's what we serve as our lamb barbacoa, which we cook in the traditional way. We make our own adobo, as opposed to just like salt and pepper. It's with chiles and garlic and cinnamon and all kind of different spices, and we roast them and we marinate the meat in that, and it really draws a lot of that flavor. So picks up the flavor from the chile marinade, wrap it in maguey leaves, and then now we will put it in the ground for like 6 to 8 hours, until that meat is fall off the bone tender. It's basically like steam, smoking it. And so, boom, matched out with a good corn tortilla, salsa, onions, onions, cilantro, a little bit of the salsa, and, it's a win-win for everybody.
It is a win-win. It's a win-win for everybody when you go see our barbecue cowboy. Speaking of that name and that nickname, that's actually kind of the name of your book that you put out a few years ago. It's called Cowboy Barbecue, Fire and Smoke from the Original Texas Vaqueros. And you wrote that, came out a couple years ago. You went on a little bit of a book tour and more. And how about Adrian, the author? And we need another read from you.
Oh, for sure. I'm trying to conceptualize what that is. What's next, right? With the next book, it was such an adventure, such a challenge, but it was absolutely the most gratifying thing I've done professionally in my professional life, so to say. It was the most difficult and complicated, and these were things that happened before when I was doing the research for it. Before, like we say, 23andMe and Ancestry.com were such a common household name. So I literally went to Avila, Spain, researching my family and eating the foods, finding my family armistice in the city of Avila, Spain, and reading about the Davilas. And then the more I backtracked and found like my family were also silver miners and horse traders, and how they dealt, obviously horse traders are going to deal with the Vaqueros that came to herd, all of the cattle that the missions had come with also in the Spanish Inquisition. And so all of this like trail up to the day where we live on a ranch, I found everything, the storyline right underneath of, who were the original cowboys, which is a really different picture. I think we tend to, because of imagery and movies and all those things, think of, cowboys of, battling with Indians and like riding in these carriages along the West. Well, those were settlers. Those weren't cowboys. Cowboys lived on the range. They didn't have homes to go to. They didn't have cities. They lived and herded these animals, these, herds across the plains, hundreds of miles. So they were truly shepherds with these animals. So they were basically living a nomadic lifestyle, which is a lot different. So, really kind of that story underlying even my family and up to this modern day, working with cattle and growing them and being a full part of that process is, Cowboy Barbecue.
Well, you're, again, doing a fantastic job as Adrian, part of a family effort there, started by his grandfather, Raul. His dad, of course, he's still right there alongside him when he's able to, and Adrian keeping the tradition. And it looks like you're also enlisting other help and kind of showing off that Texas cowboy look that y'all have. Tell me here on the Y'all Show, if you don't mind, who is that young lady?
That beautiful young lady's my wife. Definitely the best decision I ever made. She is a third generation rancher. Her grandfather and her father were Longhorn ranchers back in the day. And so she grew up in that world. And about 10 years ago we met, and 3 years ago here, and August 25th, we will have been married. And so we continue the tradition of raising and breeding cattle on the beautiful ranch that her father, bless his soul, left us to maintain and take care of. And really, again, it's a lifestyle also of maintaining land and animals and cultivating, making the most of that land. Those are really things that obviously which reach way back, to the origins of mankind. And to be able to be a part of that's really a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Sarah, she doesn't look like a rancher. She looks much more from New York to LA, but she's definitely that third generation country girl from Texas.
All right. Well, that's a great photo. It looks like y'all were at some kind of barbecue competition. Is that something y'all do?
Yeah, that I'm not so much for the competitions. But I am for like fundraising, and that was a charitable event that a bunch of chefs in San Antonio got together and cooked for the public to come, and they donated the proceeds to a charity. And that we did, of course, we did barbacoa that day. We did the whole heads because we're in South Texas, and really bring those out. And you think that people aren't really gonna be so much with that imagery because it's pretty dramatic. People love it nowadays. They want to see where their food comes from, and that it has true origins. And that's a really popular thing now with barbacoa.
Adrian, you're not far from San Marcos, Texas. Also, that's a community just up the road from you. And since you're an authentic cowboy from Texas, I gotta ask: has George Strait popped into your restaurant before?
I think my dad has something to say about that. I think he claimed that long time ago at the bus stop or something. I love George Strait, would love him, to come into the restaurant. It's a beautiful community of San Marcos. Is about 20 minutes up the road. So we do have a lot of supporters from San Marcos, but I'm not quite sure George has made it by.
Oh, George, he's missing out. He needs to get down there and see y'all, because again, y'all been around since 1959. Congratulations on such a long tradition. Let's dive into the menu. And as I warned people before, y'all have gone to no cheapening of the menu when you came out with this thing. It's got lots and lots of options. Again, for the people like me who already have enough problems when they go into a establishment, I'm just going to have to come spend a couple of months, it looks like, going through all your different items.
Yeah, you could really run the gauntlet on our menu. Because we have some what I deem as butcher block barbecue. Come in and get it by the slice. That very very well known tray of barbecue that you displayed. You have your brisket, your ribs, and your mix, and your sides, and you assemble it and customize it exactly how you want, and that's the perfect bite, right? But the barbecue world, which has absolutely exploded these last 3 to 5 years, I think food television had a lot to do with the internet. Obviously, has everything to do with it. But Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, this really drive now the way people eat and consume things, what's popular, So, like our barbecue Frito pie, our brisket burgers, Texas Monthly wrote about it. Frito pie was on Fire Food with the cooking channel. And, all these years, our brisket grilled cheese, again, that's some notoriety. This is just comfort food that some was just like, kind of thrown together, food truck items, but after all this time, like you said, since 1959, these brand new items are what makes it on, these platforms, right? That gain all this popularity all of a sudden, and now they're at the lamb tacos, those who would have thought, right? But that's one of our most popular items, is where people come from, and of course the sausage and the traditional and the new stuff. I think before it would seem a little quirky, be an old establishment and doing these kind of offbeat things. But I think they keep people interested now, and I think, it's what really people look for, is sort of, different ways of presenting it.
Well, you have it all right there, and I think I have the correct description of this. You have something called the Davila Family Order that's available. Is that a little mixture of a lot of the things you're talking about?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of what you see right there. The Davila Family Order is a half a chicken, 2 links of our sausage, a pound of the brisket, 2 quart sides of any of our sides. You have mac and cheese, you have coleslaw, potato salad, green beans, Spanish rice, pinto beans. You can choose from any of those. Pickles, onions, bread, barbecue sauce, original spicy. You can probably feed 6 up to 8 people, $40 or so out the door. It's really, pretty reasonable thing nowadays, all things considered, where we are and where we've been and where we've come with pricing and all of those factors included. can order it online. You can pick it up. You know, you can have it delivered if you're locally. And you know, we're working with Goldbelly on really trying to get these family packs and these meal kits available nationwide. And I know your audience is broad, so you know, you can really look us up on goldbelly.com. You can order a lot of these items. You'd be surprised on how many items you can get from us. We will be continuing to develop new products and get that family order on there that you speak of.
Yeah, you have all these awesome items that you've mentioned. We can't let you slide today without talking about some of the items from the sea or the inland waters. In this case, you've got both shrimp and catfish on your menu.
Yeah, you know, my dad, he's still here working every single day. I would say the venture into why there's a barbecue place out of Catfish is, you know, my dad's always been a businessman. We all are. We're always trying to think of different ways, you know, how to enhance our business. And a very Catholic community locally here in Seguin, Texas. So during every Lent, which is, you know, encompassing about 6-8 weeks over time, from February to March, going into April to Easter, you know, every Friday, devout Catholics, you know, they don't touch me, and more so back, you know, years ago. And so what that would do to a barbecue place, you know, really not what you want over that amount of time. So they started selling fried catfish. With people ate catfish during that time, developed his own batter, and it's really been one of our staple items from, you know, these last 35, 40 years now. As to remember helping out, of course, we were all little kids making that batter and you know, keeping up. We get so busy with the catfish, and then there came the shrimp, and there came, you know, the sandwiches, and you know, really mixing it up during Lent. You know, we'll do a crawfish boil with our sausage, potatoes, corn, and you know, Gulf shrimp down the local Gulf shrimp, and you know, really just, you know, have fun with it a lot of times and let people speak with what they want. And some of these menu items stay, you know, some come and go seasonally, but we really do base a lot of these things on feedback from from our community around us and what they like, and you know, what's going to work.
We're wrapping up our conversation. We're visiting with Adrian Davila, and he's with Davila's Barbecue, Seguin, Texas, here on the Y'all Show. And oh, we've had such a good time. We're going to tell you how, if you don't live in Texas, if you are wanting to experience Davila's Barbecue, we've got just the right trick for that we'll share before we get out of here with you. But Adrian, we can't get out of here without me bragging on some of the great desserts you have there. Yes, of course, you got banana pudding, and you have various pies, from the lemon meringue to the coconut meringue, got that there. But how about this? Because I'm really intrigued. You have there at Davila's Barbecue in Seguin something called Big Red Cake. What in the world? I'm here on the edge of my seat wanting to know what that is.
You know, it's basically like a white cake. So when then we do our little Jello gelatin mix, and Big Red, of course, and then we soak it.
Okay, hold on, Adrian. I know you are all about Texas, but a lot of people outside of Texas don't know what Big Red is.
Yeah, Big Red is probably, you know, it's Texas. It should be Texas national drink. It is our soda water that a lot of times is only distributed throughout Texas. Sure, you can find it now in other states. But barbecue and Big Red are synonymous. Barbacoa and Big Red are synonymous. So, and you know, very, very sweet, beautiful drink. So we take it. My grandfather and grandmother, they always had Big Red cake in the fridge when we were young kids. I don't know where they learned to make it. I don't know what it was, but I think that's how they shut us up and put us to bed. We always had a slice of Big Red cake before we went to bed, and my grandpa, they always had it ready in the refrigerator. It was just the best thing. So what better way to kind of bring that into the restaurant was our version of the research and all that about Big Red cake. Everybody loved it. It's one of our biggest staples. So just the white cake, so the Big Red, pineapple, whipped cream, love it. Very simple, but it's delicious.
And again, Adrian has all that right there at Davila's, and he looks as good as he does there, as he's definitely fit, as he said. and he's got the pretty wife to prove it. So let's wrap up here. If you can't make it to Seguin and eat at Davila's Barbecue in person, and we hope you can one day, you also have on your website, davilasbbq.com, ways for online ordering and also mail order. So tell me what people can do and experience this barbecue from you.
Yeah, online ordering, you can, of course, locally, get on our website, place your order, pay for it if you like, pay for it when you pick up, drive on through and just pick it up, which you're feeding a group or if you're in a hurry, that's as busy as we are in our lives, we kind of help to alleviate that. And then online, if you're, anywhere all over the United States, we ship to all 50 states. Now, I don't know if it goes to Puerto Rico, but I know it goes to Hawaii and Alaska. So through goldbelly.com, you can order brisket, ribs, lamb ribs, sausage. There's several packs and ways of doing it. Our brisket burger patties are on there, several items, and we're going to continue to offer more products on that. But, through the pandemic and just in general with Amazon and all the way we operate, people really continue to order online more and more. So it's really become something very commonplace now with the way we, consume things. And so, yeah, goldbelly.com or to our website, davilasbbq.com.
And the website, again, the address is davilasbbq.com, and you can feel like you're right there in Seguin, even if you're on the other side of the Chattahoochee River. You can get that taste of the great Texas barbecue available, done in the way that only the Davila family could do it, blending their both Spanish and Mexican heritage and Texas heritage also thrown in there. And Adrian, the third generation pitmaster, on with us here today to tell us about his family's great restaurant. And Adrian, we can't thank you enough, and we certainly wish you all the best and look forward for everybody experiencing your great Q.
It's great to be here. I'm super grateful. Always love talking about, barbecue and what we do. It's what we do for our living. It's what we do as an identity at this point. It's our heritage. So it goes way beyond food. So always happy to talk about it. Thanks for having me.
And there's a lot of us out here, Adrian, that are quite envious. So
far from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to show you the pits in the morning and the sweat, and having to go out there is definitely not a glamorous thing.
And that's one thing a robot or a computer probably will never be able to replace. So thank goodness there's going to be someone like an Adrian Davila, hopefully cooking up good barbecue for many, many centuries to come. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody. davilasbbq.com is the way for y'all to get in touch with Adrian and company. More of the show that's all about the South is headed your way. Stay tuned.